Those are the winds of change, Bloom.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
That's why I gotta go.
You got a team, here's a word to the wise. You want to dominate your league? Go to Footballguys.
Football, I'm living in a fantasy. Football, got everybody mad at me. Football, cause every game I had to win. Football, I gotta be a champion. Football, I'm living in a fantasy.
It is the Week 12 recap here on the Audible. Cecil, Lammey, and Sigmund Bloom, and Broncos and Panthers just as bad as we thought it would be, especially on the Broncos side of things. 23-10, the final score. Panthers are 4-8. The Broncos are 3-8, and Russell Wilson's getting yelled at by Mike Purcell, and probably going to be a head coaching change. Hopefully, maybe. We'll see. I don't know. Let's talk about it. Latavius Murray, 13 for 92, almost 100 yards. No Broncos back has had 100 yards this season. Big 52-yarder. And the first time a Broncos back had a carry over 20 yards this season. Cortland Sutton, 6 for 75. Kendall Hinton, 5 for 35. Greg Dulcich, 2 for 11. Brandon Johnson with a touchdown. I like the kid. He needs to do a little bit more. And more than Marshall Washington, who just stinks, and they keep pushing out there. But anyway, Bloom,
Yeah.
we'll get through today's show.
Sure.
Let me just say I'm going to have a lot to do tonight.
Yeah. The theme of this season with the Broncos seems to be just when you thought they couldn't go any lower, they hit a new low. And they hit a new low. And now are they going to fire the coach? And now are they going to make the change? Cease, I wonder if this Russell Wilson trade is going to go down with like new Coke, Crystal Pepsi.
Herschel Walker. Mm-hmm.
Right? It's not just a bad trade. It's set the franchise back.
And I meant the Herschel Walker trade, not the...
Right, sure.
Although Dave Chappelle... I won't repeat what Dave Chappelle said about him on Saturday Night Live, but it was very funny.
Yeah.
As Dave Chappelle is known to be. But either way, it's going to go down as a terrible, terrible trade.
And not funny. I mean, not funny if you're a Broncos fan. If you're watching Russell Wilson, especially if you're a Seattle fan, it is kind of funny. I don't know what we could have seen to signal this. I guess just trust Pete Carroll completely. I don't know if there's something to this. And Cecil, you've reported on an internal conflict between who Russell Wilson is, who Russell Wilson thinks he wants people to think he is, who he needs to be. I don't know if that's part of it, which means it could get fixed. Those things could get in alignment or more in alignment. But this is such a disaster, really. It truly gets worse with this. It's the onion, right? Each layer we peel back, we cry. For fantasy, we cry. This team this game, by the way, had 4 punts to open, and then there was a muff punt that set up a almost touchdown, not really, and then there was a fake punt that got. It was all about punts or messing up a punt or deciding not to punt, and you saw, Russell Wilson's 300th passing touchdown. Doesn't this feel like the game that they honored Peyton Manning? He threw like 5 interceptions in that game, right?
Right.
Yay, your 300th passing touchdown, which actually got wiped off the board at first. It was Greg Dulcich. By the way, the Seahawks should be really happy today because this game could really determine the top 5. These two teams are in the mix for a top 5 pick. So this could be a win or loss for the Broncos that is a big win for Seattle. Like you said, Latavius Murray had some sort of positive play in the running game. That's new and different this year. Cortland Sutton did okay, targets by default, but it is this bad. Say hats off to the Carolina defense without Phil Snow, who left with Matt Rule, his buddy. Still, this is a decent defense, but this is all about how bad Denver is, and Baltimore will have no mercy on them next week.
Yeah, and Brian Burns is that dude, Bloom. When you asked me if I would have given up 2 first-rounders or what I've taken 2 first-rounders, and I was like, yeah. And then watching today's game, I was like,
I wonder.
Still, yeah, but yeah. Either way, Brian Burns got it done. Sam Darnold, I guess, got it done. 11 or 19, 164 yards, 1 touchdown, no INTs. DJ Moore, 4 for 103 and a touch. And everyone's got to pump the brakes on Pat Surtain. Okay, good young kid, real good upside, but Devontae Adams gets him. That's one thing. DJ Moore's getting him, and that's another thing. And Moore's really damn good. But we can't be like, Surtain's the best corner in the league. No, he's not. Deontay Foreman, 24 for 113 in this one. Chuba Hubbard, 17 for 65 because Foreman got a little bit banged up. Sam Darnold with perhaps a play more embarrassing than the butt fumble, Bloom, because he fumbled, he picked up the ball, and then he rolled like a child into the end zone, and no one touched him down. So it was touchdown Sam Darnold. I think that's more embarrassing than the butt fumble, but people won't be talking about this game for very much longer.
No. For the Panthers, a ray of sunshine, something here. Like you said with the Brian Burns trade, they don't get the 2 first rounds from the Rams, and in 2024 and 2025, those could be very high picks. What they do have is Brian Burns, and like you said, he's that guy. And you see what they have to build around. DJ Moore, ray of sunshine, hope for DJ Moore, not just in terms of the future of this team, but for fantasy this year. You also see this defense, like I said, playing better. Even Sam Darnold, remember this, they get a comp pick if Sam Darnold signs somewhere for even $10 million a year, which I know that sounds like a lot, but in the NFL, $6-7 million a year for a backup quarterback like, say, Andy Dalton is something teams will pony up. And Sam Darnold playing okay, better than Russell Wilson, maybe there's something there. Like you said, he fumbled, and a lot of people going to be looking at the rule book this week because Darnold fumbles, recovers his own fumble, it's a touchdown. Traylon Burks recovers someone else's fumble, it's a touchdown, but not one that counted for fantasy. Dante Foreman, also some more hope for him as Carolina goes into their bye. And yes, it's better to be a Panthers fan than a Broncos fan right now.
And Super Bowl 50, not that long ago.
No.
Reality much different now. Different reality for the Cleveland Browns, Bloom. Oh, man, there goes my 5-game parlay. Thank you, Cleveland. Oh, my God, everything rolling. I'm like, well, the Broncos are going to lose, but whatever. My money's good. And no, says David Njoku. We'll get to that in just a little bit, but let's talk about Tampa Bay side. Tommy Brady, 29 of 43, 246 yards, 2 touchdowns, no INTs, 1 touchdown to Kift, 1 of 5, and then Chris Godwin, 12 for 110 and 1 touchdown. Julio, 3 for 40 in this one. Mike Evans, 2 for 31. Rashad White, 14 for 64. No Leonard Fournette in this game, so that was as a runner. And then 9 for 45 as a receiver, so got you plenty if you did start him, and just not enough to put this team over the top in overtime.
No, a game, team's getting up for Tom Brady, and also not great conditions this game was played in, so it was an equalizer here. A really costly loss. Tampa is still going to be in first place, I think by half a game over Atlanta, but they lose Tristan Wirfs. He gets carted off in overtime. Already, Tom Brady's protection hasn't been great this year. You did see the same story as always, the dink and dunk offense. It's not like Rashad White was a shot in the arm for the running game. And he wasn't really even doing that much. He had a few touches where you could see that he had fresher legs than Leonard Fournette. But it was Chris Godwin who's really coming on. And Chris Godwin makes a lot of sense in the same way that DeAndre Hopkins racking up catches is making a lot of sense for the Cardinals, because that's what Tom Brady can do as far as time to throw downfield, again, with these conditions. So Godwin is looking like more valuable than Mike Evans going forward. And maybe I say this because I want to say league winner. I'm going to stutter on what Chris Godwin can do trending up. But the Falcons have to love what the Browns did for them in this game, because there was many moments in this game it looked like Tampa was going to lock this one up. They couldn't, and it was a game that Cleveland's type game they've been losing this year. They win. New Orleans is coming to Tampa next week to see if they can keep their season alive.
Keep the season alive. And, well, Jacoby Brissett, it's not only teams getting up for Tom Brady, it's other opposing quarterbacks.
Sure.
They said it how many times during the game. Like Jacoby Brissett, he really wanted to beat Tom Brady in this final game. We know Deshaun Watson's going to play next week. And, hey, Jacoby, you made some money, man. 23-37, 210 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 INT, the one to Njoku, one-handed, beautiful grab, but 5 for 29 and a touch. Mari Cooper, 7 for 94, including the big 45-yarder at the end where Carlton Davis slipped. You're not going to be able to sell that. There's no Oscar for you, Davis. Nick Chubb, all the accolades for him, right? 26 for 116 and a touch. And Anthony Schwartz, 1 for 31 and a touchdown there as well to put Cleveland over the top.
Cleveland's not going to the playoffs, but this is exactly the kind of win they want to get into the Deshaun Watson era. You saw Amari Cooper, who can be a cornerstone of this offense, even though they got him as an afterthought in the trade with the Cowboys. He drops a 4th down catch that could have kept the game going, and eventually he atones. He atones with the big catch to set up the game-winning touchdown, and otherwise just as that player helping Jacoby Brissett. And I do want to take a moment out because we might not talk about Jacoby Brissett the rest of the year. He should start next year. He would have been better than a lot of teams starting quarterbacks this year. He's been underrated. Obviously, he showed a lot in this game. He showed a lot this season. He played better than his numbers. He played better than the Browns record. You did see David Njoku with an incredible 4th down and 10 catch to send this game to overtime. Well, Cade York hits the extra point to send the game to overtime, but you get it. Njoku coming on, getting over those injuries. The Schwartz was with them. He got involved, Anthony Schwartz, with that long run for a touchdown. But it was Nick Chubb. And, Cecil, you look at Nick Chubb and you look at the Tampa front, and they're looking at each other like, we respect each other. They bring the intensity, they bring the power, and Nick Chubb outlasted Tampa the same way that Cleveland outlasted the Bucs. You like for this fan base, the Browns fan base at home, to get a good win. And by the way, that game next week, Deshaun Watson's return, of course, will be in Houston.
In Houston. Here we go. Well, here we go for the next game up in Jacksonville. 28-27. Wow.
Yeah.
Jacksonville. Okay. How about them Jags over the Ravens? Lamar Jackson, 16-32, 254 yards, 1 touchdown, no INT, and then 14 for 89 on the ground. The Gus Bus was back, so 16 for 52 and a touch. If you had him in as a flex play, and well, Kenyon Drake didn't do anything on the ground, and neither did Justice Hill because he never does. Josh Oliver, 4 for 76 and a touchdown. Oh, Deshaun Jackson, he's back, 2 for 74. Mark Andrews, 4 for 50, and with Oliver stealing those TDs. Well, 1 anyway, as the chat room was talking about. Demarcus Robinson, what's the fool's gold, right? The 1 week wonder, 1 for 17 in this one. Devin Duvernay, 3 for 23. So there you go. Baltimore falling to the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Yeah, falling back into a tie for first place, a game that they could have, should have won. They were up 19-10. They were up 27-20. They had the Jags down to a 4th down in this game to win. They have a much easier schedule left than the Bengals. However, nothing is promised to this Ravens team. And what you can see, yes, they did put up 27 points. Everything is difficult for this offense. It really takes a Herculean effort from Lamar Jackson to manufacture offense. They had 4 field goals in this game. All right. Scoring touchdowns is very difficult for this offense. There's nothing coming from the wide receivers. Like you said, it was Josh Oliver along with Mark Andrews. And Deshaun Jackson, if you do see maybe something developing here with Deshaun Jackson in the deep game, that's not enough to support a playoff offense in a bracket like the one the AFC is going to put out there. Gus Edwards did basically take over the backfield right away. Stubborn running, not necessarily a lot of burst or a dangerous runner at this point, but taking some of the punishment that Lamar Jackson's not taking, because what you're seeing with Lamar Jackson is he's running the ball, and he's not running the ball like a quarterback. He's taking hits. He's getting gang tackled. He's fighting for extra yards. That's great when you want to help your team win, but his guy's got to last if this team's going to have any chance, and they lose a game that they should have won. Denver coming next week, they aren't going to lose that game. But you can see this is a team that has a lot of questions, even though they're tied for first place. And for Jacksonville, much like Cleveland sees a win Carolina, you want to win to give you some propulsion, feel like, hey, we can do better in the future. This game, especially the way it finished, gives them that hope.
Well, if the Broncos have a new head coach,
you never know.
As we've seen, there are teams that when there's changes made, they get up and then they probably fall back down.
Sure.
So you said Baltimore would win, and Denver usually is everyone's get right game, but
right.
We're waiting.
Yeah.
Judge Smalls, we're waiting. All right, Bloom. So much tea and so much W's for Jacksonville, who's 3-7. Trevor Lawrence, speaking of threes, 3 touchdowns today. Ready to go, Trevor. 29-37, 321 yards, 3 TDs, no INTs. Zay Jones, 11 for 145. Jermichael Hasty, 5 for 67 and a touch. Christian Kirk, 4 for 46. Jamal Agnew, 5 for 37 and a touch. And Marvin Jones Jr., 3 for 22 and a touchdown. Jermichael Hasty, 12 for 28. And Travis Etienne, 2 for 3. And making the chat room upset, Bloom. But let's talk about it.
Yeah. On the Jacksonville side, again, for fantasy, the headline here is Travis Etienne goes out with a foot injury. I'm not sure if it's the same foot that cost him last year. But either way, it's not great because you get into the physiology and whether it's just one of those things that you saw Etienne. There was this thunder and lightning idea, and then they trade away James Robinson. More on that later. And they really rode ETN. See, watching ETN back at Clemson, would you say he was a 20-plus carry guy on Sundays? No.
And I think with his physical, you mentioned the physiology, Bloom. I'll bring up the new Top Gun. It's like when you're pushing something to Mach 10. Like, it's only built.
Yeah.
The human body, and everybody's different, but the human body is only built to be so much, and ETN is so explosive, right? Like, you just sometimes you're going to break down. Your sports car, as an owner of sports cars, multiple, like, they break down. They're fun, but they break down.
And see, so I might be talking out of other orifices when I say this. This is more of a Dr. Gene thing.
Sorry, Joe.
But, Travis Etienne he's a tremendously explosive athlete, like you say, Cecil, but he's kind of linear, right? He's not super flexible and bendy. He's not one of those running backs who gets by on lateral agility and things like that, which I think physiology-wise translates better if you're asking a guy to take a lot of punishment. Anyway, JaMychal Hasty comes in, doesn't get much done in the running game. The Ravens defense is good. Hey, hats off to Trevor Lawrence. This is one of those pull the sword from the stone games for Trevor Lawrence, because this is a good Baltimore defense, and this is a limited Jacksonville offense, especially without Travis Etienne. But you see JaMychal Hasty being used as a receiver. By the way, they did claim Darrell Henderson. That one went under the radar. Only one team put in a claim for Darrell Henderson, Jacksonville. Unlike Justin Hollins, I think 3 or 4 teams, former Bronco, right? 3 or 4 teams put in a claim for him. Back to the matter at hand, you saw Zay Jones. There was a stat in this game. He's had at least 3 catches in 17 or 18 straight games.
Wow.
That's a definition of a high floor PPR play. And he showed a high ceiling here as Baltimore was able to blot out Christian Kirk. You also saw Jamal Agnew do some things. And again, this is all short range passing. This is just not a pass offense that can threaten. Look, when Christian Kirk's your number one, you can't threaten downfield. That's what makes this even more impressive. JaMychal Hasty doesn't get much going. Travis Etienne's out, and Trevor Lawrence hanging in and making plays against the defense, including on a 2-minute drill where, again, they were, I think, at one point at a 3rd and 21 or something like that. So this was a game that started late because of lightning. That can always mess with things. But you got the memory. See, I think that we're getting close to the time that we're not going to say the name Urban Meyer unless you're talking about Ohio State football and future coaches, past coaches, future past coaches, past future coaches. Anyway, the point here, they're not happy in Ohio State this weekend, Cease. Anyway,
Go
the
Blue.
Jags, right? Yeah, hey, Jags going to face Detroit. Speaking of Southeast Michigan.
Southeast Michigan. Let's talk about Miami and the Texans. I was like, what's our next game? What is it? Who are we talking about? Oh, yeah. Texans. Oh, boy. You knew this one. This was easy for the parlay, right, Bloom?
Yeah.
Am I right, everybody? Yeah. 30-15, the final score. Texans are 1-9-1. Dolphins are 8-3, and they're rolling. Skylar Thompson got in this game again. Rich man, poor man. But let's talk about Kyle Allen, 26-39, 215 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 INTs. Jordan Akins with the touchdown, 5 for 16 and a touch. Brandon Cooks, 5 for 59. Nico Collins, 6 for 44. And then, Dare Ogunbowale got the rushing touchdown. Dameon Pierce, 5 for 8 on the ground. And then 3 for 8 as a receiver. He's stuck on 8. Not a great 8 this week. And, not a great game for the Texans.
No, a terrible, terrible game. Cease, let's do some algebra. X, solve for X.
Okay.
X here is Davis Mills' effect on the Texans offense. It was actually maybe above 0. It was worse.
Right.
It was even worse with Kyle Allen. You're like, oh, Davis Mills. No, Davis Mills actually wasn't that bad because this isn't a great Miami defense. Now, Xavier Howard looked like his old self. They've got something going there. Maybe Byron Jones will even get back. Remember, he hasn't even played, but yeah. And what happens with that? Dameon Pierce. So I wonder if we're going to keep getting Dameon Pierce questions. And this is tough. And Rex is in the chat room bringing up the idea of in expert rankings, expert air quotes, we had to rank Dameon Pierce somewhere in the top 25 or 30 because he's a starting running back. And you at least in theory pencil any starting running back to get 15 touches, right? Have some chance at a touchdown. But then you watch these two teams and see it actually play out, and you see the Texans are so overmatched in this game that Dameon Pierce is going to do nothing. Now, next week against Cleveland, Deshaun Watson's return again. Remember that game? We'll see. Maybe there's some sort of emotional bounce for this team, but Dameon Pierce is one of those players that I think almost you have to put 2 good weeks in a row for you to play him again. And by then, is it too late? You have, this team's going to pass a lot. But again, this was an ideal game script. They're down 30-0 at the half. playing against a prevent defense for most of the second half. Cook's okay. Nico Collins did okay, but they're not really going to help you, and they could easily hurt you. Jordan Akins still has a pulse. It's easy to forget that he actually wasn't on the team for a while. He was back, and that's where you're at. You get to welcome Deshaun Watson back to the NFL, Houston.
And way to go. Jeff Wilson had RB1 upside this day, but it was so easy. They didn't need him. 13 for 39 and a touch for Jeff Wilson, who also got a catch for 13 yards as a receiver. Durham Smythe gets a touchdown grab from Tua Tagovailoa, 22 of 36, 299 yards, 1 touchdown, no INTs against Skylar Thompson came in, rich man, poor man. Jalen Waddle, 5 for 85. Tyreek Hill, 6 for 85. River Craycraft, 4 for 55. Trent Sherfield, 2 for 33. My God, it was a River Craycraft day. It wasn't a Mike Gesicki day. Okay, there you go. And yeah, that's pretty much it for the Dolphins. But again, it was so easy. They're like, everybody gets a piece.
Yeah. Are we used to the idea yet, Cease, of this team as a Super Bowl contender? Is that okay to say? Or am I making a hot take?
No, oh, God, no. You could have said that a month ago.
Right. So they need to start thinking, Mike McDaniel. It's so interesting how quickly your task changes as a head coach, right? First, he's coming into an organization and pulling together all the tattered shreds of whatever happened with Brian Flores, whatever happened with Stephen Ross, whatever happened with the team, knowing that maybe Tua was not in favor. Mike McDaniel wondering, is he even going to be the head coach next year, right? Tua, is he going to be the quarterback next year? And let's pull this together and let's see what we can make out of this. And that was that Baltimore game. Isn't it amazing? Jets also, magical thinking, because the Jets were getting smoked by the Browns. Likewise, the Ravens were getting smoked by the Dolphins. I'm sorry, other way around. Dolphins were getting smoked by the Ravens all around in that game. But Tua kept chucking it. McDaniel kept calling those plays, just like what Flacco did for the Jets in that terrible error they had. So you have to remember this for future NFL seasons. Is things that shouldn't have happened can change what does happen, right?
Yeah.
Confidence, momentum, a team coming together, rallying around each other. And the Dolphins now, Mike McDaniel, it isn't getting these guys to rally around each other and have a team ethos. It's managing your team that you're going to play in January. Because what's happening in this game? You're up 27-0. Teron Armstead goes out. And the next thing you see, Tua Tagovailoa takes a hit where he gets bent over in a way that made everybody gasp. And then, yeah, you're going to the half 30-0, and you're going to take it easy. You're going to take the foot off the gas. So that's, I think, something that may have been an adrenaline near-death kind of experience for Mike McDaniel today. But you saw, why was this a poor fantasy game? Well, it was 30-0 at half. You had a defensive touchdown by Xavier Howard. One of the drives, there was a holding penalty, so they got a field goal instead of a touchdown. And that was it, right? So they took it easy after that because you saw River Craycraft getting some catches. Durham Smythe got a touchdown. Wilson did get a touchdown, and then it looked like he had cramps. He's back on the sideline. He had to get drug off the field by Tyreek Hill. So there just wasn't as much there for Tua, for Waddle and company, but that's okay. It's because of how good they are. Now, next week, Miami goes to San Francisco, Santa Clara. That's fun. And yeah, potential Super Bowl preview. We're going to like that. You're going to want to triple stack that in DFS.
Yeah. Oh, that's going to be loads of fun. Unlike our next game, 31-10. It is the Jets over the Bears. Way to go, Jets, man. As you said, magical thinking. But it's against Trevor Siemian, so, well, it's somewhat magical, I guess. It's like seeing the man behind the curtain. Oh, okay, that's it. There are no Skittles in your jacket. Trevor Siemian, 14 of 25, 179 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 INT, and 1 ghost scene. Chase Claypool, 2 for 51. David Montgomery, 3 for 34 as a receiver, and then 14 for 79 as a rusher. Why am I talking about the Bears? Nobody did it. Cole Kmet, 3 for 27. Like, I guess Byron Pringle had the other touchdown. Nobody started him. Yeah. So this is what you get when Trevor Siemian comes in.
Yeah, and the best news I can tell you if you're a Bears fan is you have your own first-round draft pick next year. So it's okay. These losses aren't really hurting you. It looked like Nathan Peterman was going to start this game for a minute. Nathan Peterman, who always remembers, who had one of the worst games in NFL history. Siemian strains an oblique, still goes out there. At first, Siemian was distributing the ball to the running backs. Darrington Evans, remember him? He was out there over Treston Ebner. And Dave Montgomery, Chase Claypool had a big 50-50 catch. They're making the kind of plays. Byron Pringle climbed over a jet to catch a touchdown. They're making the kind of plays that they weren't making for Justin Fields. However, the passing game was a little bit more timing and rhythm-wise, a little bit healthier. But then the Jets defense took over. Jets defense said, this is Trevor Siemian. What are we doing? Why is this game even close? You did see Darnell Mooney get hurt in this one. But with Trevor Siemian, it's not going to face the Jets every week. Next week, it's Green Bay. Are we going to care about this offense at all? Cole Kmet? Nobody, really. David Montgomery was okay. I think he had about 100 total yards in this game. That's it. So this team's looking to the future now, and that's fine. The big question is, do you bring Justin Fields back? They did the right thing. They didn't play him. I'm sure if it's up to Fields, he'll play, especially after all the nonsense that accompanied him, his quote-unquote reputation. But the Bears need to do the right thing. They need to let him sit for the rest of the season and take your lumps, because this eventually you stir the gravy long enough and the lumps go away, right, Cecil?
That's what they say, except
Yeah.
I don't like gravy.
You can't. Can you even eat gravy now?
I don't know, dude. Thanksgiving was rough. It was rough because I was
Yeah.
like, I can eat this now. No, I can't. No, I
For
can't.
Thanksgiving, you can, though. See,
Not
everything
for
in
after
moderation.
Thanksgiving.
Everything in moderation, including moderation. So in Thanksgiving, you're doing it to observe a holiday. You're doing it in a ritual, almost religious fashion, not in a gluttonous fashion. It's not.
Oh
one of
no, I'm not talking about overeating. There's just certain things I cannot eat anymore.
like your
if-
system
like,
says.
boom, punch right in the gut.
Wow.
Oh,
Your
yeah.
system tells you.
Uh-huh.
You got a new gut balance. See, we got to do podcast 9,748. It's going to be your gut and you with Cecil Lammey.
On Sorry Joe Plus, we can get that poop sponsor that rolls in for all these YouTube
Squatty
videos,
Potty
right?
is good. Squatty Potty.
Squatty Potty's good, and then the cleanse, right? I
Mhm.
thought that was just Taco Bell.
Right.
Anyway,
You know who had a cleanse this week? JETS.
yeah, professional Sigmund Bloom,
Yeah.
Mike White, 22 of 28, 315 yards, 3 touchdowns, no INTs in this one. Garrett Wilson, 5 for 95 and 2 touchdowns. Elijah Moore, 2 for 64 and a touchdown. Tyler Gronklin, 3 for 50. And then Zonovan Knight, yes, we're going to talk about the NC State runner. Zonovan
Mhm.
Knight, 14 for 69 to lead the way, and then 3 for 34 as a receiver. So showing a great skill. Ty Johnson with the rushing touchdown, 5 for 62. Michael Carter, 6 for 21. Oh, Ty Johnson also had a catch. Michael Carter had a couple of catches. Denzel Mims doesn't do anything. Corey Davis is back. He didn't do anything. Braxton Berrios didn't do anything. I mean, they had like a catch, whatever. But again, it was Mike White. It was dealing time to the youngsters. Youngsters were excited about Wilson and Moore.
Yeah. What a change. We'll see if it lasts. It's the Bears defense, and Eddie Jackson went out in this game. So that's your true last line of defense player. But again, magical thinking. And if Mike White turns back into Pumpkin, remember, he had a 400-plus yard game with 3 touchdowns last year. And then I think he had a 3 interception game or something like that. So it's possible that Mike White might show that he's just an okay backup quarterback. And Joe Flacco and his experience is what this team needs as they continue to drive towards playoff berth. But for fantasy, you got to love it. And this is just how it is, right? Elijah Moore with Zach Wilson, Elijah Moore with anybody other than Zach Wilson, right? As now Elijah Moore is feeling good. I'm not saying we're going to play him going there. You are going to play Garrett Wilson, who already is a number 1 receiver and producing like a number 1 receiver. You might even play Tyler Conklin. And with this offense revitalized again, though, they're playing Minnesota next week. So that's a step up from Chicago. I'm not sure how big a step up. The big story here is in the backfield. Michael Carter goes out with an ankle injury. James Robinson, a healthy scratch. Is he really healthy? I mean, just because of what I've observed about James Robinson, I want to hope that it's not truly a healthy scratch.
It didn't seem like it was healthy when he got traded.
Yeah. So I don't know. Because you would think that, again, salting away wins, that's James Robinson's music. But you do see Zonovan Bam Knight and Ty Johnson with an excellent run drive, breaking tackles on his 32-yard touchdown. Knight, who's also a good player in the receiving aspect of the running back position. Both of these guys, and this backfield, when this team is winning and they have a good defense, can support 2 flex plays, matchup upside. And the Jets, now everything's revitalized. We've seen this already, right? Is when Zach Wilson's not out there, And Cease, it's like everything's in accordance, right? It's like a feedback loop because Zach Wilson makes poor plays. Everybody gets frustrated. Zach Wilson can feel everybody frustrated with him. It throws him off. He makes more poor plays. Rinse, repeat. So just Wilson not being out there allows everyone to just relax and play football.
Amazing.
Yeah.
When you're relaxed and confident and your quarterback doesn't suck, you can play some good football. Good football abounds. Well, I guess 20-16, the final score. It is Bengals and it is Titans, Bloom. And let's talk about this one. Very interesting game on both sides of the ball. So let's get into it. And let's talk about the Cincinnati side. Joe Burrow, 22-37, 270 yards, 1 touchdown, no INTs. T. Higgins, 7 for 114 and a touch. Hayden Hurst, 6 for 57. Samaje Perine, 17 for 58 on the ground and 1 rushing touchdown. And then 4 for 35 as a receiver. You'll take it. Tyler Boyd, only 2 for 16 if you had him in there. So we had thought the original plan was Jamar Chase would be back in week 12. No. He practiced, but not until next week against Kansas City. Whoever their play-by-play guy is. But anyway, great time. Let's talk about the Bengals, who had a great time, I guess, Bloom, because they won.
Yeah, a great win for them. And look, the Bengals have a tough schedule left. They still have Buffalo left. They, like you said, Kansas City. They've got some tough games left. Nothing is promised to them. It's not going to be a lot of margin of error when you get in the playoffs. But this team is already playing at a playoff level. Go to Tennessee, and a Tennessee team that was playing really well going into this game. And you saw, we talk about this at this time of year. We're past Thanksgiving, playoff intensity. Their games have playoff intensity. This game had playoff intensity. Absolutely had playoff intensity. And you saw it, teams that feeling each other out early, just like a good, I want to say 15 rounds because I'm that old, a heavyweight title fight, a few punts, a few field goals, and really the defenses were making this game more the character of the game than the offenses. But then you saw Joe Burrow. And Joe Burrow, I know people were going to say this is heresy. It just reminds you of Tom Brady. How it reminds you of Tom Brady is you might be holding him down. You might be giving him trouble. But when it's a play that needs to be made, he's going to find a way to make the play. And not necessarily with some acrobatics or athleticism, just with his mental toughness, processing, accuracy, and a willingness to let his guys make plays. Because the sequence that really changed this game was a 3rd and long back shoulder throw to Trenton Irwin, and an absolute beauty. And then he throws a 50-50 ball for T. Higgins against Roger McCreary, the rookie. And the 50-50 ball still belongs in the playbook when you have someone like T. Higgins, you have someone like Joe Burrow throwing it, and you have a matchup like that. And then they took the lead, and they were able to get the ball back. They held Tennessee to a field goal on Tennessee's next drive, and then basically did a game-winning drive in so much as they got it down to 2 minutes. Tennessee had to use up their timeouts. They were going to kick a field goal to go up 23-16, and Tennessee takes a penalty for basically driving the long snapper back on the field goal. That's how they lose that game. So Ryan Tannehill would have had a chance, but Ryan Tannehill, just like we saw in the playoff game last year between these two teams, not necessarily making the plays. The one touchdown that Tennessee did score wasn't really even something the offense did, but I'm getting ahead of myself. From a fantasy standpoint, you did see Samaje Perine, and see really as a poster boy for the motorboaters for the club, because it's not pretty. It's Tennessee's very tough run defense, but he got a touchdown. He broke some tackles. He matched the physicality. That's the thing about Cincinnati, that getting this win again in Tennessee, this is a physical team. See, I feel like the Titans have taken the mantle from the Steelers in the sense that if you may win or lose, but you're going to be physically tested.
Yes.
When you play that team. And the Bengals were the stronger team in the fourth quarter. The Bengals were the team that brought it in the fourth quarter. So you just see Perine, Hayden Hurst had a good game. And during the broadcast, they said Hurst he lost his love of football when he was with Atlanta last year. So that's interesting, but he's got it back. Tyler Boyd, probably loving football. Not so much you're loving him have him in your lineup, with Jamar Chase likely coming back, which is the right thing. So the Bengals playoff season has already started. Kansas City next week, like you said, Cease. But if they can continue to match these teams' intensity and play like this, they're going to be ready to make another run.
It's like when you realize that you're tough.
Yeah.
Or that you realize you're tougher than you think you are in life. I'm thinking of
Like Back to the
flights.
Future. Take your
Oh.
damn hands off her, Biff.
Well, when you take that punch and you're like, that's all you got?
Yeah.
That's all you got. Okay, Cincinnati, we see you. We see you. And Tennessee is that bully. And they try to bully their way with Derrick Henry. It didn't work. 17 for 38 on the ground, but 3 for 79 as a receiver. That worked. Traylon Burks, Bloom, you'll have to explain it, but 4 for 70 in this one. Nick Westbrook and Kinney, 4 for 58. Chiggy Okonkwo, love him, 3 for 35. There's more in the future, everybody. And then Ryan Tannehill, 22 of 34, 291 yards, no touchdowns, no INTs on the day, and a very playoff-like atmosphere, as you said.
Yeah. The Titans offense, it's a problem. It's a problem. And it's the same way we felt about this team. Look, Derrick Henry's foot isn't banged up like it was last year, but he's not having an influence on the game. He had an influence on this game in one play. It was a long catch and run. It was a screen pass that didn't develop at first, and Ryan Tannehill had to be patient, and then he finally distributed to Henry, and then Henry, he doesn't have the best handling, but can make some moves, can veer in different directions when he's up to speed, gets it down inside the 5. Cam Taylor Britt, remember this name. Cam Taylor Britt. They have got a player. This rookie chases him down from behind, punches the ball out, and there's Traylon Burks. Hustle play. You like seeing that after what we heard about Burks in the spring, right? Hustle play, dives on the ball in the end zone. Not going to count, but still you see Burks making a few plays. You see Nick Westbrook-Akina making a few plays. Henry not setting things up in the running game, and you can say, okay, that's fine if he's held to 2 yards a carry or whatever, as long as it's setting things up in the passing game. But other than that play, 70-yard catch and run by Henry that Burks recovers in the end zone, no, it wasn't really setting up big plays. They were settling for field goals. There was one chip shot. They had their rookie UDFA kicker, Caleb Shudikin, because Randy Bullock got hurt. But still, if the game comes down to Randy Bullock, you're not loving that either. Unfortunately, Cecil, when I say they're the mantle to the Steelers, they're the mantle to the Bill Cowher Steelers, where they can play you. They almost beat the Chiefs with Malik Willis. Okay. But at the same time, you have to be able to make a play on offense. And it can't just depend on Derrick Henry, especially when Derrick Henry has all the wear and tear that he's built up all season. So this team, they should coast to the division. They should coast to a home playoff game. They may even be the number 1 seed again. But this may turn out the way it did today, the way it did last year. By the way, we'll see how they measure up against Philly next week.
As Dylan says in the chat room, don't forget to give some love. Give some love to that like button as we wrap up the Week 12 recap of the early games, everyone. Week 12 recap, it is the Commanders 19 and the Falcons 13. Okay, there we go. All right, Falcons side is the first one we're going to go to, Bloom, and we have Marcus Mariota, 15 or 25, 174 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 INT, 1 more game as the starter. I don't know. Like, you're 5-7. But we'll see how they continue with that. Olamide Zacchaeus, 5 for 91. Drake London, 2 for 29. It was McCole Pruitt with the touchdown. Nobody started him. Cordero Patterson, 3 for 19 as a receiver, 11 for 52 as a runner, and then Tyler Algier, 11 for 54 as a runner there as well. So Atlanta, they're 5-7. They're not out of it, Bloom, which means Marcus Mariota is not out of a job.
He's still in it. Yeah, they're not out of it, so he's still in it.
Hey.
They're a half game out of first place. So and it's Arthur Smith. He's not going to pull him. I mean, he's just not going to. This team could absolutely still make the playoffs. They had a chance to win this game. Again, how many times has that happened this year? This team really could be in first place right now. For fantasy, there's not much here. Cordero Patterson, just know this. If you started him, they were using him as a receiver early in the game. He had 3 catches pretty early on. On the decisive play of the game, Atlanta's driving down 19-13. Mariota about the 5-yard line. And Cordero Patterson is all alone in the middle of the field. Cordero Patterson is going to catch this, get the go-ahead touchdown as long as Younghoe Koo does his job. Instead, Daron Payne gets his big paw up there, and the ball is intercepted. And then, well, they still had all their timeouts left, and they forced a punt to give Mariota, 50 seconds. I think we kind of knew what was going to happen, but whatever. Give him a chance. Run into the punter. And that's how that game ended. For fantasy, you do have, again, if Patterson catches that touchdown, something. That's it. Mariota, even in a game that most of the offense was on his shoulders, was still kind of disappointing. Let's give a little nod to the Washington defense. Again, that defensive line, they should get Chase Young back next week. It wasn't this week. What they did get, you can't spell win without W. You can't spell Washington without W. Cease.
Commanders time. And Taylor Heineke can't spell Heineke without YOLO.
Yeah.
Figure it out. Well, actually, there is a Y.
Heine.
There's an O. There's an O. And it's YOLO. Yeah. And Heine. You can't spell Heineke without Heineke and key. Okay. 14 of 23, 138 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 INTs. Terry McLaurin, 4 for 48. John Bates, 3 for 24 and a touchdown. Brian Robinson, 2 for 20 and a touchdown as a receiver, but then 18 for 105 as a rusher. He shot Jonathan Williams get some work. Antonio Gibson got 9 for 32 and then 3 for 22 as a receiver. Jami Brown, 1 for 17. Jahan Dotson, a target, no catches. Logan Thomas was out there, had a catch for 7 yards. So it's a little bit different than we thought. Maybe not as robust as we thought, but it certainly was a Robinson day. And, well, not really much for anybody else.
Right. Isn't this the win that Ron Rivera hatches up in his head every week, right? We're going to give Brian Robinson the ball 20-plus times. We're going to make some plays on defense when we need to. We're going to win a close game, kicking game, not put too much on Taylor Heineke's shoulders. He had a terrible interception in this game. So it worked, and this team is absolutely in the playoff hunt. Biggest fantasy headline here is Brian Robinson now. It's Robinson, not Gibson. You watch Robinson, and it's painfully limited at times when you look for initial burst or just burst in general, but they love the way he breaks tackles. He runs over somebody on the way to the end zone on his reception for a touchdown, and this is something this team feeds on. And even though it's not necessarily pretty in terms of efficiency, it was good for fantasy, and it makes us question ourselves as they go to face the Giants next week. What are we going to do with Gibson and Robinson? Gibson still wasn't terrible, but it was a Brian Robinson game. And as long as the defense is good, they're going to try to lower Taylor Heineke's pass attempts, which means we're not messing around with Logan Thomas, who's, like you said, sharing with John Bates in terms of targets. We're not messing around with Curtis Samuel, nowhere really to be seen in this game, or Jahan Dotson. Even Terry McLaurin had a rough day of it because of A.J. Terrell. So remember that when Atlanta plays Pittsburgh next week. That'll be fun. Terrell against George Pickens. But it's really the running backs and McLaurin. And this team still has their bye left, too, which is, you see how some of these teams are dragging. That's good for this team. And again, it's a fun story. And for Ron Rivera, God, I'm going to say it. Sorry, Jeff. You know what? Cecil, you know what popped into my head when I was trying to come up with a metaphor for Ron Rivera? A urinal mint.
Okay, there you go.
Just Dan Snyder. If we can turn the page from Dan Snyder, then we can wholeheartedly, without any reservations, root for Ron Rivera.
Yes, Dan Snyder is the turd in the punch bowl. Coming to Sorry Joe Plus. That's right.
That's right. Season 2. Turn to the punch bowl.
That's it. There we go. Bloom, as we do the morning games and the afternoon games are going on right now, I just did a quick browse.
Sure. The Raiders.
The box scores. The Raiders. Yeah. Geno throwing a pick. The wheels falling off. Well, Seattle's still going to have a top 3 pick for Russell Wilson. And no Broncos ranked today. Bloom, did you know I started tweeting about like movies and comic books?
Great.
And
yeah.
Everything else after halftime, I was like, I just can't do that.
No.
I can't tweet Montreal, Washington sucks because I'd be doing that multiple times a game.
Yeah.
Or fire Nathaniel Hackett. Like, that's boring. That's old. Like, he should be fired. Honestly, any minute now, Bloom. But we'll see. So let's go over some afternoon games. Just some quick thoughts overall.
Just some quick thoughts here. The most interesting one here is that the Saints defense, about 20 minutes into this game, are giving San Fran all they can handle. And remember, if the Saints can somehow win this game, by the time you listen to this, you might know already, then they're going to be 5-7. They're going to be a half game out, and they play Tampa next week. Meanwhile, San Francisco, you've got the Seahawks again. They're supposed to be streaking into first place now as a team coming out of their bye. The Raiders, they're going to use them as momentum. No. So that would put the 49ers back in position. But then you have the 49ers struggling. The Cardinals hanging with the Chargers. This team, I mean, we've been focused on the NFC South as a team where someone's going to win by default, as a division, I'm sorry. maybe that's going to be the NFC West. So yeah, you see Derek Carr got hit hard in this one. Looked like he was hurt pretty bad, but came right back in a play later. So he's making some plays here, trying to play for his future quarterback of, well, we'll see, Panthers. I don't know. And the Chiefs are just a small lead, actually. The Rams defense showing up in this one as Bryce Perkins getting a start, and rooting for him. He can make himself millions of dollars today with a solid game, considering he's got no one to play with.
And just for the record, Bloom, this is just regular iced tea, unsweetened.
Of course.
So no one rats me out to Joe.
Yeah.
Thanks for that, everybody.
Yeah, we're way past. See, we're way past again. We hit Broncos drive you to drink. Then we hit I'm very disappointed in you, Broncos. And then we hit, hey, have you been watching Andor? It's pretty good.
Okay, there we go. That is a wrap, ladies and gentlemen. It is the Audible, and he's Sigmund Bloom. I'm Cecil Lammey. Follow us on Twitter at Sigmund Bloom, at Cecil Lammey. The show is at the Audible, and we are so very thankful for you. And as we tune out tonight, we always wrap it up this way. Be safe, be kind, know that you are appreciated. Stay tuned, and as always, stay frosty.